All right, let's dive into ancient Rome. We've got this really cool set of questions and answers all about Rome's journey from a small republic to a massive empire.
Yeah, it's like a crash course through some of the biggest moments in Western civilization.
And it's not just some boring history lesson.
Right. This stuff still matters today.
Yeah, like their laws and their politics, even their language.
It all kind of echoes into our world today.
Exactly. Okay, first question takes us back to the 6th century BC.
Ooh, ancient times.
It says, what political system was established in Rome at the end of the 6th century BC after the expulsion of the Etruscan kings?
The end of the Etruscan kings, big moment. You got to imagine you're a Roman back then living under these, foreign rulers.
I'm a fan of the Etruscans, huh?
You've got unrest. You've got this desire for, freedom, and boom, monarchy is overthrown. And the answer to the question is the Roman Republic.
The Republic. Okay, so what did that actually mean for them back then?
It was a huge change. Instead of a king, ruling by, divine right, they created this system of elected officials and assemblies.
So like a democracy?
Not quite. Not at first, anyway.
Okay, so who had the power then?
Well, mostly the patricians, the wealthy elite.
So still a bit of a power struggle, huh?
Yeah, but the idea of democracy, that was starting to take root.
Gotcha. And speak of people, the next question is about the folks who really defended Rome.
They're soldiers.
Yeah. What were the soldiers called who played a major role in the defense of the Roman Republic, mainly composed of small and medium-sized farmers?
Those were the heavy infantry.
Heavy infantry sounds tough.
Oh, they were. They were the backbone of the Roman army. And get this.
What's that?
They weren't professional soldiers. They were farmers.
Whoa. So they just dropped their plows and picked up swords?
Pretty much. When Rome called, they had to defend their land.
I guess that's some serious motivation, right? You're fighting for your home.
Absolutely. And, serving in the army also gave them a say in politics.
Oh, interesting. So they weren't just fighting, they were voting too.
Yeah, it was all connected, Military service, civic duty, all tied together.
Wow, a society built on citizen soldiers. That's pretty unique.
It was. And any society with a growing military, they need laws, right?
Yeah, to keep things in order.
Exactly. And that brings us to the next question. It asks, what was established in the mid-5th century BC in the Roman Republic to codify customary law?
Codify. So like writing down the laws.
You got it. Before that, it was all word of mouth,
Yeah.
Passed down through generations, open to interpretation.
Sounds messy.
Yeah, totally. So they created the law of the 12 tables.
12 tables. What's that all about?
Basically, they took all these laws and inscribed them on bronze tablets, like big metal sheets.
Fancy.
And they displayed them in the Forum, the center of Rome, so anyone could see them.
Oh, wow. So everyone knew the rules.
Exactly. It was a game changer.
So from whispers to set in stone, literally.
Exactly. And these laws, they covered everything. Property, family, crime.
Sounds pretty thorough.
Oh, yeah. It was a big step towards a fairer, more stable society.
Makes sense. But we know Rome wasn't always, fair to everyone, right?
Right. Especially when it came to the common people, the plebeians.
And that's what this next question is about. What was established in the Roman Republic in the 5th century BC to protect the commoners?
Well, they created the tribune of the plebes.
The tribune of the plebes. What's that?
Think of it like a champion for the regular folks. Someone who could stand up to those powerful patricians.
Ooh, someone to fight for the little guy.
Yeah, the tribune had power. They could veto laws, even bring charges against corrupt officials.
Whoa, that's a lot of power for one person.
It was. It was a way to check the power of the elite, give a voice to those who might not be heard otherwise.
I like it. So the plebeians were starting to gain some real influence.
They were.
And this next question shows that what was enacted in 367 BC in the Roman Republic that stipulated the election of one consul from the plebeians?
Ah, yes, the Lex Licinia Sextia.
Catchy name.
You gotta understand, the consuls, they were like the top dogs in the Republic.
Like the presidents.
Yeah, kinda. But before this law, both consuls were always patricians.
Always those elites.
But this law said, hey, one consul has to be a plebeian.
Finally, sharing the power.
It was a big win for the common people, showed that the Republic could change, adapt.
Awesome. So the door was open now for a plebeian to be like the top leader.
Right. And that idea of equality, it keeps going with the next question. What law enacted in 287 BC in the Roman Republic brought about the legal equality of patricians and plebeians?
I'm guessing this is where things really even out.
You bet. This is the Lex Hortensia.
Another one for the history books. What did it do?
This law basically said patricians, plebeians, legally equal.
Boom. No more second-class citizens.
It was a huge achievement, centuries of struggle culminating in this moment.
Talk about a victory.
It was, really. But of course, it didn't solve all of Rome's problems.
Right, societies are always changing.
And Rome, they were always facing new challenges.
Speaking of challenges, this next question takes us to a big one.
Oh.
What was the name of the war that began in 264 BC between the Roman Republic and the Phoenician colony of Carthage?
Oh, that's a big one. We're talking about the Punic Wars.
The Punic Wars, I've heard of those.
These were huge. Rome, this rising power going up against Carthage, this big maritime empire.
A clash of titans. This is where things get really interesting.
They do, and that's where we'll pick things up next time.
Can't wait to hear more. Join us for part 2 as we dive into these epic battles and explore how they shaped the Roman world.
See that? All right, welcome back to our Roman adventure. Last time things were getting heated, right?
Yeah, we left off with Rome and Carthage about to go head-to-head. The Punic Wars were brewing.
Yeah, huge clash of civilizations, right? Rome, this land-hungry power, and Carthage ruling the seas.
Yeah, before we jump into the battles, can you set the scene for us? What was at stake in these wars?
Okay, so the First Punic War kicks off in 264 BC, and it was basically a fight for control of the Mediterranean.
Makes sense. Whoever controls the sea, controls trade, controls everything.
Right. Carthage had this powerful navy and controlled all the major trade routes.
So they were top dog, but Rome wanted a piece of the action.
Exactly. Rome was getting ambitious. They wanted to expand beyond Italy.
So where did they clash first?
Well, that's what this next question's all about. Where was the first overseas territory that Rome acquired after winning the First Punic War?
Okay, let me guess.
Sicily.
Bingo. You got it, Sicily.
So Rome takes Sicily, scores their first major overseas victory.
Yeah, it was a huge win for them. Showed the world that Rome was a force to be reckoned with.
It's like, hey, world, watch out, Rome is coming.
Exactly. But those victories, they came at a cost.
Yeah, war is never easy.
These wars were brutal. Tons of people died on both sides.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that when we're just talking about dates and places, right? Real people lost their lives.
Absolutely. And the impact of those wars, it went way beyond the battlefields.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Wars always have consequences. Exactly. That takes us to the next question. It's about the struggles Rome faced back home. What is the name for the large slave-worked estates that were one of the causes of the decline of small and medium-sized farmers in the Roman Republic during the BC era?
Okay, so this is about the economic fallout from the wars, right?
Yeah.
The answer is latifundia.
Latifundia, yeah.
I always picture those as these, well, massive factory-like farms.
They were huge. Imagine like rolling hills covered in vineyards and olive groves.
Sounds idyllic, but
all worked by slaves, captured in Rome's conquests.
so these estates were making a ton of money for their owners.
Oh yeah, the wealthy elites were getting richer, while the small farmers, the backbone of Rome, were getting squeezed out.
I can see how that would cause problems.
It did. It created this huge gap between the rich and the poor.
Talk about social unrest. And that's where these two brothers step in, right?
We're talking about the Gracchi brothers.
Yeah. The next question asks, what are the names of the brothers who successively served as tribunes in the late 2nd century BC Roman Republic and attempted to create self-sufficient farmers?
Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus.
Those guys. They tried to reform the system, make things fairer.
They did. It was a bold move.
So what did they do?
Tiberius, he became tribune in 133 BC and proposed these land reforms, wanted to take land from the rich and give it to the poor.
Whoa, that's a big change.
He wanted to create a new class of farmers, people who could support themselves and, well, strengthen the republic.
That makes sense, like going back to Rome's roots.
It was a good idea, but, well, it didn't go over well with everyone.
Yeah, I bet the wealthy landowners weren't too happy about that.
They weren't. They saw it as a threat to their power.
So what happened?
Well, tragically, Tiberius was murdered by a mob of senators.
Whoa, murdered?
It was a brutal reminder that challenging the elite was dangerous, even deadly.
That's awful. So what about his brother, Gaius? Did he give up?
No, he picked up where Tiberius left off.
Brave guy.
He became tribune a few years later, and, well, he was even more radical than his brother.
Really? What did he do?
He proposed grain subsidies for the poor, wanted to set up colonies for landless citizens. He was really trying to help the common people.
He sounds like a true reformer.
He was. But sadly, he met the same fate as his brother, killed by his political enemies.
Wow, that's a tragic story.
It really is. It shows how hard it was to change the system, even from within.
And all this is happening while Rome is still expanding, right? winning wars, conquering new lands.
Yeah, they were becoming a superpower, but internally things were fracturing.
A powerful empire built on shaky ground.
Exactly. And as Rome's power grew, so did the ambition of its leaders.
This is where we see the rise of powerful individuals, those who want to grab power for themselves.
Wait, the Republic, it was designed for a small city-state, not a giant empire.
It couldn't handle the strain.
And that's where this next question comes in. It asks, what was the name of the political system in the Roman Republic in the BC era in which Caesar, a populist, Pompey, a member of the aristocracy, and Crassus, from a knightly background, cooperated to control the Senate?
Okay, this is where we get to the first triumvirate, right?
You got it. Caesar, Pompey, Crassus, these three powerful guys teamed up.
Each with their own agenda, I bet.
Oh, yeah, they wanted to control Rome, shape it to their liking.
It's almost like a drama unfolding, these powerful figures clashing with each other.
It was. And their alliance, it was built on ambition. And, well, ambition can be a dangerous thing.
Yeah, you can feel the tension building, like something's got to give.
And it did. But we'll have to save that story for next time.
Ooh, cliffhanger. Join us for the final part of our Roman saga as we explore the fall of the Republic, the rise of the Empire, and the legacy that shaped the world we live in today. Okay, so last time Rome was kind of falling apart. The first triumvirate was, well, it was imploding.
Yeah, lots of ambition, not a lot of trust.
So was the Republic doomed? Or were these powerful figures just speeding things up?
Good question. And it's one historians still debate, were guys like Caesar the problem, or was the Republic already broken?
Yeah, like, were they just the final nail in the coffin?
Exactly. And speaking of Caesar, this next question jumps right into what happened after he was assassinated.
Right, after that whole Ides of March thing.
Dramatic.
Totally. So the question is, what was the name of the political system in the Roman Republic in the BC era in which Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, Antony, Caesar's subordinate, and Lepidus formed a political alliance?
This is where we get the second triumvirate.
Second triumvirate, so like round two of the power struggle.
Exactly. Caesar's gone, there's this power vacuum, and these three guys, Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus, they step in.
Try to fill Caesar's sandals, huh?
Yeah, and they're also out to, avenge his death.
Right. Got to get revenge.
But, history kind of repeats itself, right? Alliances like this, they rarely last.
Yeah. Too much ambition in one room.
Exactly. Octavian and Mark Antony, they start butting heads.
Classic power struggle.
Oh, yeah. And you can see where this is going in the next question. What was the name of the battle in 31 BC in which Octavian defeated Antony, who had allied with Cleopatra of the Ptolemaic dynasty?
Okay, we're talking about the Battle of Actium.
The Battle of Actium, a big one. Octavian versus Antony and Cleopatra. Wow.
Talk about a showdown.
It was a clash of civilizations, really.
So who had the upper hand?
Well, their forces were pretty evenly matched, but Octavian, he was clever.
Oh, how so?
His ships were smaller, faster, and his crews, they were better trained.
So strategy and skill won the day.
Yeah, Octavian was a smart guy. He knew how to play the game.
And he wins, right?
He does, big time. Antony and Cleopatra, they flee to Egypt, and, things don't end well for them.
Let's just say, it wasn't a happy ending.
Not at all. So Octavian comes back to Rome. He's the undisputed champ. The Republic is basically, it's over.
The end of an era.
And the start of a new one. That's what this next question is about. What title was given to Octavian by the Senate in 27 BC?
This is where he becomes Augustus, right?
You got it. Augustus, a powerful name.
It's like emperor, but, fancier.
It was a smart move, The Romans, they hated the idea of kings.
Right, after getting rid of those Etruscan kings.
So Octavian, he's like, I'm not a king. I'm just the first citizen.
Humble. Huh?
Yeah, right. But he was in charge, make no mistake about it.
So Augustus lays the foundation for the Roman Empire.
Or does. A system of rule that would last for centuries.
Amazing. And this brings us to Rome's golden age, right?
The Pax Romana. This next question asks, what was the name given to the period from the reign of Augustus to the 5 good emperors, the period of greatest prosperity in Roman history?
The Pax Romana, or Roman peace, over 200 years of stability and prosperity.
Imagine that, a vast empire at peace.
No wars, no internal strife, just good times.
Well, there were always challenges, but for the most part, it was a time of peace and growth.
Yeah. So what made the Pax Romana so successful?
Well, Augustus, he created a professional army, loyal to him.
Smart move. No more relying on citizen soldiers who might get other ideas.
Exactly. So with the army under control, Rome could focus on other things.
Like building stuff.
Yeah. Roads, bridges, aqueducts, the Colosseum, all that amazing stuff was built during the Pax Romana.
It's incredible what they accomplished. It makes you wonder, is this when Rome really became, well, Rome?
Good point. Roman law, culture, technology, it all spread throughout the empire during this time. It's a legacy that's still felt today.
Crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And speaking of spreading out, this next question is about Rome at its biggest. Who was the Roman emperor during the period of the largest territorial expansion of the Roman Empire?
That would be Trajan.
Trajan, the emperor who took Rome to its limits.
He was a great military leader, conquered Dacia, expanded into the east. Rome was huge under Trajan.
But even the biggest empires, they can't last forever, right?
Sadly, no, all empires fall eventually.
So what happened to Rome? What brought them down?
Well, there are lots of factors, but this next question points to a big one. What is the name of the land management system that replaced latifundia in the background of the fall of the Western Roman Empire, in which labor was conducted using colony?
We're talking about the colonist system, right? This was a change from those big slave-powered estates.
Right, remember those latifundia we talked about? Well, by this point, Rome wasn't conquering as much land, so they weren't getting as many slaves.
Supply and demand, right? Less conquest, less slaves.
So they needed a new system, and that's where the colonate comes in.
Okay, so what was it like?
Basically, farmers, called coloni, were tied to the land they worked.
So, like, not slaves, but not exactly free either.
Exactly. They had to pay rent to landowners and often do extra work for them.
Sounds kind of unfair.
It wasn't a great system, and in the long run, it hurt Rome's economy.
So a system designed to fix one problem ends up causing others.
Yeah, that happens a lot in history.
And what else contributed to Rome's decline?
Well, Rome was just too big, too hard to manage.
And you had those barbarian tribes always pushing at the borders.
Exactly. Defending those borders, that was expensive. It drained Rome's resources.
And of course, you always had those power struggles in Rome itself.
Yeah, constant fighting for control. It weakened them from the inside.
Like a house divided against itself.
Perfect analogy. In all this chaos, it leads to this next question. Who was the Roman emperor at the end of the 3rd century who established an autocratic monarchy and implemented the 4-part rule of the empire?
We're talking about Diocletian, right?
Yeah.
He tried to save the empire by splitting it up.
Yeah, desperate times, desperate measures. Diocletian divided the empire into 4 parts, each with its own ruler.
Like a 4-headed emperor.
Kind of. It
Yeah.
was called the Tetrarchy. And it was meant to make things more manageable.
So did it work?
It helped for a bit, but it wasn't a long-term solution.
Yeah, you can't just, divide a problem and make it go away.
Rome's problems ran too deep for that.
But amidst all this, something new was emerging. Christianity.
Yeah, huge shift. This next question asks, what was the name of the edict issued by Emperor Constantine in 313 that granted religious freedom to Christians in the Roman Empire?
That's the Edict of Milan, right?
Yeah.
A big win for Christians.
Huge. Before this, Christians were persecuted, imprisoned, tortured, even killed for their beliefs.
Yeah, not good.
But Constantine, he changes everything. He says, hey, everyone can worship freely.
Freedom of religion. That's a pretty big deal.
Huge deal. And it paved the way for Christianity to become, the dominant religion of the Roman world.
From persecuted to top dog, that's quite a turnaround.
It is. But with any new religion, you're going to have, arguments.
Different interpretations, different beliefs.
Exactly. And that's what this next question is about. What was the council held in 325 by Emperor Constantine to establish the orthodoxy of Christianity, where the Athanasian doctrine was recognized as orthodox?
We're talking about the Council of Nicaea, right? The first big Christian council.
The first of many. They brought together bishops from all over the empire to hash things out, figure out what Christians actually believed.
So they're trying to create a unified Christian doctrine.
Exactly. They condemned some beliefs like Arianism and established the Nicene Creed, which is still used today.
Wow, so even as the Roman Empire is crumbling, Christianity's getting organized.
Yeah, it's like out of the ashes of the old world, a new one is being born.
And speaking of the Roman Empire crumbling, this next question takes us to the end. Who was the Germanic mercenary leader who brought about the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476?
Odoacer.
Odoacer, the guy who deposed the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus.
And that date, 476 AD, it's seen as the symbolic end of the Western Roman Empire.
The end of an era, for sure.
But it's important to remember, the fall of Rome, it wasn't like one big event. It was a slow process, centuries in the making.
Like a slow-motion train wreck?
Pretty much. Economic problems, barbarian invasions, internal strife, it all added up.
Deaths by 1,000 cuts.
Exactly. But, the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantines, they kept going for another 1,000 years.
They did, holding on to that Roman legacy.
And speaking of legacy, this next question highlights one of their big achievements. Who was the Byzantine emperor who compiled the Corpus Juris Civilis, a codification of Roman law in the 6th century?
We're talking about Justinian, right?
Justinian, a great emperor, he wanted to revive the Roman Empire, and part of that was, organizing all those Roman laws.
Makes sense. You got to have a clear legal system.
And his code, it wasn't just some dusty old document. It had a huge impact on legal systems all over the world.
Wow. Roman law, still relevant today. Amazing.
It is. But even the Byzantine Empire, they couldn't last forever. And that brings us to our final question. What empire brought about the fall of the Eastern Roman Empire in 1453?
This is the Ottomans, right? They conquered Constantinople.
Yeah, 1453, the end of the line for the Roman Empire.
What a journey. We've covered over 2,000 years of history, from the rise of the Republic to the fall of the empire.
From a small city-state to a global superpower, it's an incredible story.
Full of triumphs and tragedies, powerful figures, and regular people just trying to live their lives.
It reminds us that history is made by everyone, not just the emperors and generals.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for our Roman adventure. Thanks for diving deep with us. We hope you learned something new and maybe got inspired to explore more of this fascinating period in history.
Keep those questions coming. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the past.